Are you looking for more out of your life? Do you need ideas on how to start new businesses and how to move forward in your own personal life? Well, guess what? You have come to the right radio show. At You Can Overcome Anything podcast show, you will learn and hear from many people from all walks of life who are sharing their challenges, their stories, the habits, and the mind shifts they had to overcome to become who they are today. On top, you will get a chance to connect and see how you can overcome anything by networking and learning about your next move through this radio show. I present to you our great speakers at You Can Overcome Anything podcast show with your host, Cesar Espino. Hello there and welcome back. It is your host, Cesar Espino, and you can find me at www.cesarrespino.com. And you are at You Can Overcome Anything podcast show. Today I have a special guest. Her name is Suzanne Buchanan. Hey, Suzanne, how are you?
I'm great. Cesar, how are you?
I am doing wonderful. Thank you for being here on the show today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, definitely. And before we get started, let me just give our listeners and viewers a little bit of your background, and then we can dive into the interview. So, Suzanne, after being diagnosed with an extremely rare and potentially fatal blood disease that caused multiple chronic health conditions in times of illness so severe, she was not expected to survive. Suzanne went from being afraid to leave her trusted medical team to becoming a global communications and conflict resolutions expert that has lived and worked in developing countries. She was able to move beyond a 3% chance of survival and build the career of her dreams by developing the necessary mindset and expertise in natural health and integrative medicine. Today, she uses this knowledge to help others thrive and overcome regardless of the health issues they're experiencing. Wow, that's amazing. Definitely want to know more of that. But before we dive into that, I want to know more about what were you born? What's your backstory growing up?
Yeah, so always where to begin. I am kind of a typical American kid. I had a divorced family. Sadly, that's typical in America, but
Yeah.
came from a divorced family. I have 3 older brothers, and I was the baby. And growing up, I had a relationship with both of my parents and stuff. My family dynamic was just a little bit different because while most parents can't wait for their child to grow up and be successful business people or wives, family members, my parents were a little bit different in that their greatest hope for me was to survive.
Mm-hmm.
And because of my rare blood disease, many holidays were spent in the hospital. A lot of attention and care was spent on protecting me. And so I became maybe a little bit spoiled in that regard because I was so well loved by both of my parents, but the family focus was a little bit different. I didn't have any expectations from my parents to succeed in life. Really, their focus was on me surviving. And that has a really different effect on somebody, compared to parents who are there and nourishing their children and guiding them towards a trajectory.
Right. So at what age were you, did you find out about this red blood disease?
Yeah, so I was like the sickly child always and missed a lot of school. And it wasn't until I was in 4th grade that I had a doctor say that they had heard once of this very rare condition that seemed to fit the symptoms that I experienced. And on a wild hunch, they suggested I get tested for it. I did, and it was definitely positive. So we had then a name for it. And while for most families that would be a blessing because that gives you a guideline for treatment and trajectory, and knowledge is power.
Mm-hmm.
This was so rare that to date that I know of, there might be only 200 people on the planet with it.
Wow.
And at this point, there might be only 2 or 3 doctors that specialize in it in the world.
Wow.
So, in essence, we had to really navigate things ourselves.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh,
Yeah, and one thing that I know, like our human condition, right? Between the ages of 0 and 7 is when we pretty much are sucking in a lot of the information. Our mind is more responsive in many different aspects. So the habits, the things that are going on in our lives, they tend to engrave in ourselves, right? So for you at 4th grade, you're kind of around that time frame. So I can only imagine, the impact that made to you internally, like, to your soul, to your mind. And so, what was going on your, through your mind at that age, right?
yeah. Caesar, it's funny you asked that because I will never forget the moment that I was diagnosed. And I had a very good, family doctor who just loved me. And he saw the test results and I saw his face fall.
Wow.
And I was maybe 9 years old at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember just looking up to this man who I knew cared for me and seeing him just, everything in him fell. And he looked at me and he said, "You can still have a good life."
Mm.
And he said, "Don't give up. Don't let this get you." And even though he tried to sound hopeful, it didn't sound hopeful.
Yeah.
It sounded horrible. And I just remember being 9 years old and seeing his words kind of come at me. And for some reason, they didn't fit.
Mm.
That feeling and that emotion,
Right.
they didn't resonate even then. And I just remember them kind of not hitting me. And if I could articulate how I was feeling then, I think it would have been, "You don't know me."
Yeah. Yeah. Got you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
It was
mean,
defiance.
yeah, I definitely, and obviously that's, something to that extent when you're getting, that kind of news, or diagnosed, you're like, this is changing the trajectory of my life, like how I'm gonna be living my life moving forward, the things that I gotta do, or the aspects. So, like, how do you handle that, or how do you deal with that? Because I think a lot of times could be, again, it could be something like this, whereas it might be a health condition, or it could be, people's minds play in different aspects, right? It could be different things that you end up losing, or that is going to change your life to an extent. How do you, in your opinion and your experience, deal with stuff like to this magnitude?
So, of course, I wasn't born with the insight I have now,
Yeah.
right? All of us learn trial through experience and trial by fire for us who, this was my reality.
Yeah.
These are like your reality. I mean, you had to learn to navigate
Right.
right away. And I had to decide what my life would be like. And for me, it came down to a decision.
Mm.
Would I abide by what I was being told would be my reality,
Mm.
which didn't resonate? Or would I abide by what I felt deep inside and what I knew myself to be? And that's why that doctor's words back then didn't hit me. I didn't feel those words because I knew I had a different destiny. And it's not about denial. It's just about that inner sense of knowing and having the courage to have faith in who you are and what you were born to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
couldn't have a clue back then, but I knew something wasn't right.
That's very powerful when you, again, it comes down to decision, choice, or even thinking beyond that. And that's very powerful. Two things just came to mind right now. And it could be relatable to what you just mentioned. Les Brown talks about somebody else's opinion about you should not be your reality, right? So not accepting somebody's opinion, don't take that for what it is and then make that your reality. And then that's kind of like what you did here. Either the choice in the decision of, yes, I hear what they're telling me, yet that cannot be my reality. I'm not going to allow for that to be my reality. And therefore, I got to do something different, change that trajectory, which is what you did. And
Absolutely.
yeah, and then the other one too that I know is very relatable is Napoleon Hill, his son, right? He was born and couldn't hear, and the doctor said he's never gonna hear ever again, and things like that. And he didn't give up. And for, I think, if I remember the numbers correctly, 18, 20 years, they kept going and going, and finally the son was able to start hearing. And now they didn't accept that reality of the son being handicapped in that aspect, and ended up being able to hear and now helping other people that were going through the same thing, right? And so that's what you've done in your journey, right?
Absolutely. And it's so different so in that example, and I love that book because I've read that,
Yeah.
Napoleon had the courage to believe differently for his son.
Yeah.
What happens when your parents, because they love you, their first instinct is to protect?
Yeah.
And so what that did for me, that had a shutting down effect on me because, the narrative I received always was that I was sickly, I was diseased, I was XYZ, those labels. And quite frankly, my body received those examples, all of those words. And I had a sickly childhood. Even though I was allowed, I did everything else every other kid did, I paid greater price for everything because the condition affects my immune system quite seriously. I'm definitely one of the immune compromised, and we can talk COVID-19 stuff later, but I don't have a great ability to fight off infections. And so, yeah, there were often times when I was in the hospital. So over time, that mindset, it really does affect you when every outside source says you are one thing. And inside, though, everything in you is screaming, so what? I'm so much more. And for every one of your guests on your podcast, they've had that, and you had that, and you are so much more.
Yeah.
And we've all done whatever we can to climb out of those preconceived notions and those low expectations to thrive. And that's why we come together.
Yeah, I love that. And part of that, what you mentioned is like, you're right. I believe that we tend to receive all of these programs, right? The way the mind works, we sometimes don't see it, but that projected words or the TVs or you think about it from all of that is all of those are programs that are going into your mind, right? And so you're right. A lot of times when, in your case, like you have a disease or you're or not, or that you're diagnosed, the parents tend to take care of you, your family want to take care of you. But you're right. I didn't think of that. They're actually trying to, save you per se, right? A lot of times, though, that becomes more of handicapping you from becoming your true potential. And you're fighting that within your inner self, which is one of the things that I think is very critical for anything that we do is that potential, the ability to say, you know what, I'm not going to accept this. I'm going to change it. I have the power to do so. So what were some of the things that you were telling yourself in your mind to say, yes, my parents are protecting me or everybody's trying to protect me, yet there's got to be a better way for me to be protected. So therefore I'm going to fight, that stuff that's being thrown at me.
Yeah. So for me, I think it came down to decisions. It's really about your beliefs and your decisions. And, you just have to take it back to the very simplest things. We've walked on the moon. We've conquered diseases. We've done so many things. Who are we to say what we are capable of? I mean, when I looked at your story, oh my gosh, I love your story, Caesar.
Thank
It's
you.
so powerful. And that's everything that I love about the American dream
Yeah.
is just that human potential. So you just look at history and
Mm.
why the hell not me? I
Yeah.
don't know. For me, that is such a decision point. It's
You're,
really, yeah.
yeah, no, go ahead. Yeah. I was gonna say you're absolutely right. It comes down to we have so much ability to do, so many abilities and so much that we can do that when you put into that content and you say, yeah, we walked on the moon, we uh, I forget the guy, his name, the 4 hour mile,
Oh,
when
yeah.
that you know who I'm talking about, right? So when that took place, nobody could do it prior to that, and until he did it, then it was believable that more people can do it. And now so many more people have done it now, including high school students, right? So my point to that and to what you're saying is right. If you can believe it and you have faith and you know that you can continue to push forward, and you know that it's possible, you can make it happen, right? There's been so many uh, ideas, dreams that have been grown out of nothing. And
Mm,
when even other people believe that it was not possible, yet it did become possible, right?
exactly. I think also I came to a point where, number one, I hate regret.
Mm,
I hate regret. I mean, who wants to be old and look back at everything they didn't do, or even look back on yesterday or an hour ago and know that you missed something and there's something more that you were meant to be?
yeah.
I love people too much to want that for them. So, and I love myself too much to want that for me. And so, what's the opportunity cost of not trying, of not figuring it out, of not doing your best to just overcome whatever it is in your way? I think we're here for a reason. And it's okay if we're not sure what that reason is. Not all of us were born with all the answers,
Yeah.
but we are here. And I think it's up to us to figure out what we're here for and what we're meant to do.
Right.
Um,
Yeah. And with that, one thing that I want to know about you is, I can see there's a lot of positivity, a lot of love, a lot of self-love. And I think that sometimes we miss that, right? We as people miss that. I started practicing some stuff a couple of years back where I started, um, you know, caring more for myself, or really just period. I mean, telling myself, that I love myself, that I thank myself, that I'm grateful for myself. And I say that because a lot of times we tend to wait for somebody else's validation or somebody else's
mm,
edification towards you.
yeah.
And so when it comes down to the positive side, or that loving side of it, it's hard for us to tell that to ourselves, like literally saying, hey, I love myself, kind of thing, right? We're more easy to say to ourselves the negative emotions, like I'm dumb, I could have done this better, oh my god, I screwed this up. That all of that is negative programs going into you, right? And so I've changed that frame now for myself. What do you do yourself to keep you going very positive, and staying in that track?
Yeah. So I think it comes down to being super honest with ourselves. For me, I have so many reminders of everything I'm not.
Hmm.
We all do. And I mean, eh, I am diseased. I have multiple things wrong with my body. I have osteopenia. I have glaucoma. I have scoliosis. I have blah, 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 blah. Like I could go on for days, people. So, but where does that get me?
Right.
Let's follow that trajectory and see how does that enable you to thrive?
Hmm.
I just don't see that as being why we're here or what we're meant to focus on. And I just have more faith in all of us. And if you are somebody who is secure enough in who you are, you will see that purpose in everyone you meet. You know, Caesar, the gifts come out of your mouth when you speak. You are here, and your experience and your example you set for others, it's powerful. You've overcome so many things. I've overcome so many things. And we can be a testament to others to help them get to where they need to be.
Right.
Whether it's through health, whether it's through career mentoring, whether it's through mindset, people, you're going to get the point.
Yeah.
You know, there's
Yeah.
many.
When you mentioned that too, it comes down to that it is the mindset is so critical, right? And I always tell people that the most powerful thing that we have is the one thing that is between our 2 ears, and we have to make sure that we continue to work on that muscle and continue to just really embody that. Because again, just like you mentioned, I do believe that we're here for a different purpose, and whatever that purpose might be, we have the choice to either, seek for that purpose and help yourself and help other people, or unfortunately, sometimes people just tend to be here and take up that space. And I choose not to be that person. I choose not to just be here taking up that space. The other thing too is, I love what you mentioned, and is rather than focusing on all of the negative things that we have, because we do all have so many negative things, rather than focusing on that aspect of our lives, why don't we focus on the things that we do want, the things that the positive things that we are looking to get, because at the end of the day, that is what's going to bring you more satisfaction. You start thinking about all of the negative things or the things that you don't want, then it becomes a depression, and then you end up getting,
and what are you attracting?
Exactly, in negative energy, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, really at the end of the day, so what? So you're all these negative things, and
Yeah.
what's your point?
Right. Yeah.
Where does that get you? Like, okay, are you done? Like, here's a tissue and let's go.
Right.
We got stuff to do.
Yeah. No, you know what? And it's very similar to like the human mind. We have, I forget the number, the statistics. I think it's either 60,000 or 70,000 thoughts going through our mind. And of those 60, 70,000 thoughts, 80 to 90% of them are negative already. Okay. So we already have every second, every minute, we have so many negative thoughts. Yeah. And so again, instead of focusing on that, let me look at how beautiful the day is today. Let me look at, one thing that I always tell people too is, I'm glad and very thankful that I woke up today for another day of opportunity. Right. And I'll give you a little bit of some of the things that I do. And I want to know if you do anything similar or what are some of your habits. But one thing that I do now is right before I go to sleep, right before I go to and close my eyes, I want to finish my day, right, with positive affirmations, with a prayer, and just with gratitude, right? And I also do journaling. And so I do that every night before I go to sleep, because I want to make sure that as I go to rest, my mind is in a positive state of mind. When I wake up, the first thing that I do too is I do affirmations, and I do the same thing that I do at night. I do it in the morning, and then I do a gratitude prayer. And then I start my day, because the first 15 minutes of the day are the days that are going to change really the entire day for yourself, right? And so I want to, as much as I can, and you're always going to get all this again, because we get them all around, the negativity and all that stuff. You're going to have that. Yet if you start in a positive state of mind, then you tend to stay in that positive state of mind, and you start seeing things that are positive, that are good about the day. So anyways, those are some of the things that I do. What do you do in anything to keep you positive, in that positive state of mind?
Yeah. So, number one, I mean, I kind of have an advantage over everybody, because I will still get sick, and I have constant reminders of how lucky I am to be here. Right. So I work hard on living the same life everyone else lives pretty naturally. Like, I have to work harder to be here. So I kind of have a cheat sheet built into me for gratefulness and gratitude.
Mm-hmm.
But I do know people who have had chronic illnesses that it turns them bitter and mean, and it's how you take it. But so for me, I think I do a lot of the similar daily routines. But what I'll add to that is to identify triggers and to start catching yourself when you're falling into the negative thought patterns. Once you become a little more self-aware of your thoughts, you can catch yourself easily, and literally stopping that negative thought pattern, interrupting it. Tony Robbins talks a lot about interrupting patterns, and you really need to just cognitively be aware of this negative thought, understand it's not going to do anything for you, and then reposition it with a positive thought. So yes to the habits, yes to the, routines, definitely, but also identify triggers.
Yeah, I like that. You definitely, it's a good way to get you out of a negative state of mind by creating an interrupt pattern that is going to change the direction of that. So, and so now in terms of your, with your knowledge and your experience of the things you've gone through, you're now helping people with very similar either health issues or experiences or even other things that they might be going through to overcome that. Is that through a coaching type of service you give, or how do you do that?
Yeah, so while I still do communications consulting and conflict resolution consulting, I have a very unique background in that regard. I really came to a point where everyone I knew was coming to me for health advice. And it got to the point where, and I've worked in the supplement industry as well, in the natural health industry, all throughout my career. Every part-time job, every opportunity I could, I went into that to, of course, learn to self-heal. But I became pretty adept at working with people who have very diverse chronic illnesses, from diabetes and high blood pressure to cancer to emphysema. So many issues that I have an extensive knowledge base for. So it came to the point where it's like, who am I to not share what I know? And rather than being just a health coach, because I will not pretend to be able to cure every disease, I want to be a conduit to connect people to answers. And the one thing I can coach them on is the mindset and skill needed to address chronic illnesses. Because regardless of what you face, you need the same mental skill set and tools to be able to address things. So while I do a coaching session for a coaching program for people with chronic illnesses, I'm also building a online resource bank for people with the chronic diseases, so that they know where they can come to. And this would also apply to people who are just health oriented and want to either fight off things or really help those that they know that have health issues. So 3 in 5 Americans have one or more chronic health condition.
Wow.
3 in 5.
3 in 5. Wow.
That's massive.
It is.
And oftentimes we don't even think of high blood pressure or high cholesterol as a health issue, but it leads to so many other things. And we're very good at, because we have such a high quality of life, of ignoring the little things and just letting things add up. And over time, that does something to you. And so, so that's where I'm focused right now.
Right. So do you, do you normally do one-on-one
There's group coaching.
Okay.
Yeah, there's group coaching. There's individual coaching at a higher price point,
Gotcha.
and there's the group coaching level. And then I'm currently building a community site
Gotcha.
for people with a chronic disease.
Wow, that's awesome. So, what are some of the things that are next for you? What are you working on? In the upcoming months or years?
Yes, I started to do a bit of speaking before all of this happened, and I will
Yeah.
continue to do so.
Yeah.
I've also joined together with a few of my peers, and we're doing some live webinars and working on, it's a series called Elevate. And we started with Elevate Your Mindset. We're going to move on to Elevate Your Connections and Relationships, Elevate Your Health, Elevate all of these different aspects of your life. So we're working on the Elevate series.
Nice.
And I also, of course, besides the membership community, have been doing more speaking as well. So.
Got it. Yeah, and hopefully we can get back to somewhat normal, so we can actually start doing more of that. Like you can actually get back to doing more of that, or doing the actual speaking.
The world is online though, and I'm happy to be here. And the other thing that I want to focus on, which I think is important, I think you'll resonate with this, is that many of the natural health practices we have come from different cultures.
Mm-hmm.
And with my background in diplomacy and global conflict, international relations, I want to move people in that direction to understand that a lot of the resources we come from really came from other countries, from other cultures, from other practices and other belief systems. And I think we can benefit from learning about each other on a global scale. And there's no better platform than online to do that.
Yeah, it's definitely a great tool to have and connect. And, with this technology, you can definitely have meetings like these, across the country, and just be able to do a lot of that, right?
Yes.
So you spent time going to other countries too, right? And was that for study, or to learn more about, like you talk about that, like the medical?
So I wanted to work on international relations, and I remember I was applying to graduate programs for my master's degree, and I love the area of conflict resolution. I always was a communications expert, and I was always bridging messages and people and being a healer of relationships of some sort. And so I decided, if I'm going to heal, something, I better heal something big. So I challenged myself, and it was quite a leap. My family definitely freaked out. I moved to Pakistan. I lived in Pakistan for 2 years. I lived in India for 1 year. I've done quite a lot of travel and global conflict work for countries like Yemen, projects related to Iran, France, many different places.
Wow.
But yes, talk about taking risk.
Yeah, definitely.
I moved to Pakistan with no job. I moved there and built a communications consultancy while I was there. I found projects while I was there and ended up doing quite well, which kind of set the stage. After that experience, I came back to the US. I finished my master's and was hired by the United States Department of Justice to work as a mediator, mediating racial conflict, discrimination, and tension in communities across the US. So there I was traveling to very high profile conflicts, like when Baltimore had riots, when Ferguson had riots, Trayvon Martin issue in Florida. So I was, in most of these places, Charlottesville, Virginia, that was my case as well, where I, was in very high stress, high intense environments, bridging peace
Mm. Yeah.
between communities, gangs, anyone you can imagine. I've worked with, immigrant populations, refugees, asylum seekers, people from Somalia, Afghanistan, Iraq, Iran, every
Mhm.
place you could imagine.
Yeah. And again, this is actually very good. So our listeners and viewers can take note of that. You can, and I'm gonna go back to the point that we talked about before. Somebody else's opinion about you should not be your reality, and you created a really good reality for yourself, even against all odds, right?
Yes.
Being able to take the leap and travel in different countries, and not just we're not talking about very well established countries. These are low developing countries, and being able to establish yourself there and create something out of that, and then continue to come back and help out in multiple aspects. That is a huge testament of really overcoming different obstacles in life. And so that is wonderful, and definitely thank you for that. That's very good.
Yeah,
um
I went from, at one point, I had a 3% chance of living.
yeah.
There was one point when my family flew in for my funeral,
Wow.
and my family had, the next day, they were going to pull my life support. And somebody in my family said, she's always late, give her another day.
Yeah.
And the next day, some enzyme level in my liver changed. And they said, okay, that was the first positive sign she might live.
Yeah. how lo-
So,
yeah,
yeah,
how long ago was that?
I was 21 years old.
Yeah. So imagine, that's so that's beautiful, right? I mean, it's amazing. And again, going back to that, being at a 3% chance, and look at you now. You've been able to share your story and help many different people in many different aspects, right? And this is beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, that's wonderful. And so, with all of that, I have a couple more questions for you, because I can go on forever, right? But I have a couple more questions for you before I let you go. Number one, just thinking about you taking your leap of faith, or that risk, like, what was going through your mind? Because I know sometimes people, even here, it might not be something like moving from the States to a way, different country. It might just be leaving my job because I want to follow entrepreneurship, or I don't know. It could even be just simple things as, should I buy this car or that? I mean, there's so many indecisions that will go through our minds. Um, when we're looking at something as big as the decision you made, what were some things that were going through your mind that really, you know, helped you say, yes, this is the path I want to follow. This is the what is in for me, what I'm looking for, the search, what I need to do.
Mhm. I think kind of similar to Napoleon Hill's
Hmm.
work, there's a conviction that develops in you when you finally tap into what you're meant to do and where you're meant to be. And that conviction, if you allow it, will supersede all of the other fears. It reminds me of when people, get into a new relationship and they have a checklist, what they want. And
Yeah.
the person they meet doesn't quite, they've got these other things. And they're like, how will this ever work? And everybody who is married says, no, with the right person, it just doesn't matter. Those things just fall away.
Mm.
And you get this kind of tunnel vision of where you're meant to go, and that trajectory becomes very clear. If you are somebody who has a lot of fear about taking a big step, I think it's important to understand where fear comes from. It is a defense mechanism meant to keep you safe. And the fear is not where you'll find the answers. The faith is where you will find your answers. Focusing on the fear will either prolong your decision making, because you'll have to do this tedious work of kind of addressing each one rationally, if you're rational. Hopefully you're rational. Whereas faith is a path to certainty. And so I tell everyone, especially in my coaching, it's not a question of if, it's only a question of what you believe. Well, what are you here for? Why are you here? Are you meant to thrive, or are you meant to fail? At the end, it's those really simple, primal questions that will underlie, I think, every right decision you're going to make. Just go to your faith and what you believe.
Yeah, I love that. That's beautiful. If people wanted to connect with you, where can they connect with you?
I don't want to talk to anyone. No, I am totally available on most social media platforms. I'm not on TikTok yet, but I am on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, at Red Carrot, REDKARAT. And from there, I can funnel you everywhere else. But
awesome.
That's a great first step.
Yeah. Okay, cool. And last question. You given us so many different tips. I don't know. Maybe you have one more in your head. If you were to tell our listeners and viewers what is one thing they can do today to start focusing or start changing their trajectory to overcoming anything in their life, what would that be?
Get rid of all the noise. Get rid of every, forgive me guys, it's not going to be easy. Get rid of all those people in your life that are naysayers, that have doubt, that you don't feel like you can shine with. And get in the physical space where you can thrive. Whatever that is, if you're in a limited environment, then you have to really guard your mindset. But do what you can to get to a place where that noise outside dies away. And for many of us, actually the noise is inside, and that's our fear. And you have to work at really isolating your fear and focusing on your faith and what you believe. Take inventory of those beliefs. And if they're not beliefs that are going to guide you to success, guess what? You have the power to change your beliefs. It is that easy to change what you believe. And so that would be it.
Yeah, I love that. Get rid of that noise. That I love that. It reminded me of what you mentioned about that noise inside of your head. There's an African proverb that says, "If there's no enemy inside of you, there's no enemy outside of you that can do you no harm," or something to that extent.
Yes.
And it's very true, right? That it comes down to that enemy is inside of you, is those thoughts, that self-doubt, those things you tell yourself, that fear. When you can overcome that, and it's not easy, yet you continue to work on overcoming that, there's nothing outside that can stop you, right? In the reality, in the world of reality. So yeah, Suzanne, thank you so much. I had such a wonderful time here with you, and really appreciate all of your information, knowledge, and ideas, and your story. So thank you for that.
Oh, thank you so much, Cesar. It was an honor. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. And for the rest of you guys, please do me a favor. Make sure you like, subscribe this podcast and this show. Please leave some comments. We're definitely looking forward to seeing you at the next podcast at You Can Overcome Anything podcast show. Thank you. Bye.
Ciao.
Hi. We know the importance of moving your freight from one place to another and moving it on time. We are Leon's Freight Services, and our top priority is to bring you multiple logistics solutions. We specialize on port drayage in Los Angeles, LTL and FTL transportation, airport pickups and deliveries, and full services in contract logistics, warehouse, and transload. We at Lians Freight Services are a one-stop shop giving our customers and business partners more logistics solutions. Contact us at www.liansfreight.com or at 310-763-0013, and one of our business development associates will reach out to you and help you with your logistics needs.
Thank you for having me today. I am so glad you tuned in to this podcast. You can find me at Spreaker.com, where you can like and subscribe. And to learn more about myself and my services, you can find me at www.cesarrespino.com, or you can also find me at Facebook under Cesar R. Espino. Once again, thanks for joining me. I am looking forward to having you at the next episode, and know that you truly can overcome anything.